Hey guys, so somebody left me a comment and I just went to go look at it, and I think it's been deleted because I can't find it. And it was a kind of a long comment, maybe a paragraph, about feeling upset at the idea that that this is a simulation and that all the people in it aren't real, and feeling, fear about what that means and sad about that and everything. And I wanted to answer that question or give a perspective on that question. That's all I'm really doing anywhere on this channel. That's all anyone is really doing anywhere about manifestation, because we have no answers yet. Okay, I'm going to say this over and over again. There are a lot of channels out there that are acting like they have definitive answers. They don't. They have really interesting ideas that seem like they could be true, that may feel true, they may ring true with your experience. That's it. That's it. This is a highly personal experience that everybody is having. So nobody knows the answers to this stuff at this point, if they ever will. And so I just want to be clear about that. This is just a perspective. I do believe that this is a simulation, but not, I don't know, like that's another failing of language. The more I occupy the same space that I've occupied for 45 years with the perception or the question in my mind at all times, is this a simulation? The more I see things that make me think it can't be anything other than that, or that that is the best explanation I've seen to date for what I'm factually, for lack of a better word, seeing in front of me, and for what my experience has been, and for how weirdly things mold themselves to me. That's what I think is going on here. I have no idea how that could be a thing. But when you think about the concept of parallel realities, which is essentially, as far as I know, this is probably not a great explanation, but I'll just whatever, for the purposes of this video, what that would mean is that basically at every moment, for we'll just say for me, I don't know, add this to every person and it really becomes mind-blowing, but in every moment, every choice that could possibly be made, basically every possible variation of reality is happening and splitting off into a different universe. So you can imagine the just, billions and billions and incomprehensible number of realities there would be if in every moment a new reality was created with every choice that could be being made by you being made, or basically every version of your reality that could exist happening and splitting off into, and then all those realities splitting off. It's incomprehensible. But where it is comprehensible to me is in relation to the very little that I know about computers and coding and stuff like that. Again, very little. But the only place that's possible in relation to anything I understand is in the world of computing. And so that's one of the small intellectual reasons that I could say, all right, well, I don't understand a lot about how a lot of things work. So it's feasible to me that some sort of simulation and some sort of computer way that I don't understand is creating all of this. And that, this is an experience that I've chosen to come and have in order to experience making all those choices, basically, and creating a reality. Maybe for specific purposes also. And it also, to me, kind of jibes with base core concepts of A Course in Miracles. It jibes with Neville Goddard. It jibes with everything. It all works. It jibes, like, the concept of reincarnation is really interesting to me, but only because I've read a couple of books, specific books about it, that had some really interesting things in them. I read Many Lives, Many Masters, and a bunch of the other books by that same author, Brian Weiss, when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And then just last year, I think, I read the book Journey of Souls, and there were some concept, like there was a description in Journey of Souls about how the human that the soul is going to go into is chosen. And I had never thought of it in the terms that this book talked about. Basically, I've read this one time, so I'm recalling, and it's probably skewed, but the soul who was speaking through a hypnotized patient in a psychiatrist's office, this is the book, the author is the psychiatrist. The soul is describing looking through a bunch of different, essentially, hosts, seeing what this person's life would be, and comparing it to the soul lessons that the soul wanted to learn. You know, what experience did it want to have to correct another experience it had, or to provide the other side of another experience it had had in human form. It's just really interesting to me. I don't know why. The book was kind of hard to get through, but that part for me was riveting. And so that too, I think, jibes with the simulation idea. And the simulation is like, when you think of a simulation, it's hard to think of it being like a virtual reality, but there's not really a better word for it. A chosen experience that is not like organic, maybe would be a way to put it. I don't know. But it all just kind of comes together. And so if you're thinking of this experience as a simulation, and it's just sort of devoid of any meaning because the word simulation to you just kind of means like, I don't know, some previous experience you had, like in elementary school, with something called a simulation. Or, you know, I don't know, playing a video game or something. I'm not really sure how people think of that term. And when I use it, I don't think of it that way. I'm just thinking of it as a placeholder word for whatever this experience is, you know. You already know what the experience of this is. You're living it. You've been living it. That's what this is. What this is the experience that you've been having. That doesn't change. You know, you can call it a simulation. You can call it the cold, harsh reality of the world if you don't believe in anything beyond that. But it is what you've been experiencing. And the same thing goes for your relationships with people, the people you love. Will they ever be any less real to you? It's not like if you start thinking of this as a simulation, then all of a sudden people become robotic or empty or just a projection. It doesn't really change. I mean, you can explore these concepts to the moon and back, and the people in your life are still real. They don't just start doing whatever you think they're going to do. They don't just start doing whatever in your mind you tell them to do. If anybody is telling you that, they're probably trying to sell you something. Try it. That doesn't happen. The type of change that, you know, sometimes you get a little weird thing that happens here, a weird thing that happens there, and you go, oh, is this a coincidence? Nobody is consistently mind controlling anybody. Not like directly, you know? So your experience of it remains real. It doesn't change. If you are into manifestation long enough and you get yourself out of the way enough, which in my opinion, generally is going to come from knowing yourself and working out big areas of your life where you have ideas about things that are not, you know, that are just kind of false, big constructs that aren't helping you. If you get to a point where you know, have experienced enough of this, you know, you're gonna, I think, start to see the reality of how you create everything. You're gonna start to understand that is happening. Even if you can't use it perfectly, even if you can't understand it pretty much at all, eventually you're going to learn through experience. You're just going to see through experience that you are a massive influence on everything in your life, intentional or otherwise. I'm not sure how that can be a thing if this is not some kind of simulation, some kind of experience that is vastly more than meets the eye. But what I think you should take away from that is not fear or sadness or devaluing the feelings that you, or the experience you had, or, like the people in your life. Like, that's the opposite, I think. There's nothing to be afraid of. If this is something you're choosing and creating, and you created these things, then it's, they're more than real. They're you. There's no separation between you and them. If they're your creations on some, in some way of looking at it, they're not your creations within the experience that you're having, but through from a grander sense, I guess, or, this is hard to talk about and wrap your mind around, but people are really tuned to think in terms of separation, because we're separate here. Everything is experienced as separate. People are experienced as separate from you. God is an idea that is outside of you. The universe is outside of you. All of that. Like, everything is separate, but it can't be. That's the thing. It can't be. And so when you're calling upon your higher self to give you answers or to guide you or help you, and you receive answers in your human brain, I think it's safe to assume that you can't conceive of what that higher self really is. You can't conceive of what God is if you feel like the answers are coming from God. But it's you as much as you are you in your perception here. And beyond that, any further understanding beyond that, I think screws up the simulation. That's the thing. Think of all the things that you would prefer not to have exist, and how different this simulation would be. And I think a lot of people don't want to admit that it wouldn't be the same, and they wouldn't actually want that. So to that commenter who, maybe you didn't delete your comment, I just asked, maybe I hearted it or something so it went away from my app. I would have, if you can, if just thinking about it, I would try to have a different viewpoint about this. Everything is as real as it ever was. And it's all good. Like if you can come from the place of this is all good, nothing can harm me. Something could maybe harm me, like the little me down here, but nothing can really harm me. Because this is just a sim. That doesn't mean you should do a bunch of stupid things, and, that's not an invitation to live recklessly. I don't think. I don't do that. I mean, that's not my approach to it. But approaching your known life and the way that you've learned things work in this world, with an underlying feeling of it's all good, everything is working for my good, I'm choosing all of this. You know what? I was going to make a different video about this, but I'm just going to keep talking. I've had a sense for a long time, like decades, that even in the worst moments of my life, that I was choosing it. That it was something I wanted to be experiencing. Even though I did not, seem to be wanting what was happening, that it was something I created specifically for myself to experience because I wanted to have the experience of it. I've had that sense. And it's shifted the way I look at the things that are happening in my life, because now I automatically, anytime something is coming up and I don't like it, I ask myself, why did I want to create this? Why do I want this in my life right now? And there's usually an answer. My friend Cecilia Hendrix, I'll link to her channel below. I hope I remember to do that. If not, she's at Unleashing Happiness on YouTube. We had a little conversation last night about this, where she was saying she had an epiphany. We hadn't talked about this, I don't think, previously, but she was saying she had an epiphany that, you know, she thought she had kind of created a circumstance in her life that she was struggling with, and had seen how it happened. Like, and to me, it was a good example of one of these things where, you know, you create a situation and you look at it on the surface and you say, this is really tough. This is really like a challenging thing that's happening. But then if you're aware, you can see, I created this maybe because of a fear of, you know, something. I'm afraid that my life is going to be empty, or, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do when I reach this point of unknown. And so you unintentionally somehow facilitate a situation coming up that delays you having to deal with that eventuality. That's kind of another example, I think. But I look at most of the things that are coming up in my life that I don't like as illusions, you know? Like, I had a physical issue with my knees that started, both of them really, one of them really badly, that started a few years ago. And I'm not sure I ever really fully, I think there was a lot of stuff that went into that, but I felt pretty sure that I was doing it because, and, you know, I've kind of picked through it rationally also. You know, I said, hey, I'm the one moving this body around. I'm the one doing the things that are causing these knees to get injured. And why am I doing that? You know, the fact that I'm the one moving and, you know, I'm the one who is causing the motion of the body that is causing these injuries to keep happening, you know, and then they'll heal and then they get re-injured again. That to me just seemed kind of like, you know, I was like, I'm doing this. Is it because, you know, I don't want to be working as much as I am? Is it because I'm tired of going to the gym and walking 6 miles a day every day? Because I feel like I have to, because I feel like there's a certain outer appearance I need to maintain. You know, there were a lot of ideas that I sorted through with that, and I no longer really have those problems. At least I still have the tendency to injure my knees, but they don't get injured much anymore. And I think it's because I'm on the other side of a lot of those questions, you know. And so that's just an example, you know, of how you create things. And if you focus on the thing that is like unpleasant about it, you're going to miss the whole, you know, it's almost like the higher you is trying to communicate with you through you sometimes. And if you just focus on the manifestation, then you miss the cause and you miss the source and all of that stuff. I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but yeah. The idea that you're creating everything because you want it, even the bad things, I feel like that also goes hand in hand with the simulation thing. I really, you know, I think a lot of people get into manifestation and they really take this idea that you are God and stuff like that the wrong way. They take it almost to mean like the God that I have had in my, you know, the God that I've had in my mind from like going to church as a kid, I'm actually that God, when that's not what God is at all. And nobody really knows what God is. It's kind of the unknowable, you know, what's the Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. It's that concept. You can't really know God. And I think that's also a part, you know, who knows what God is. Maybe God is just the massive computer, the director. But I think if you could know these things, then the simulation kind of ends. And you get glimpses here and there. You know, I've had these experiences where there was a revelatory download followed by this period of bliss. By the way, I mentioned this in another video. I forgot to kind of mention what the indicator was that it had been a revelation for me. And it was this period of bliss and suspension of doubt, suspension of separation, all of that. those things have happened. And I don't know, maybe that's just coming from the computer, So those things happen, but I don't think too many people are existing in a constant state of being outside of this. And maybe that's what people refer to as being awakened. Maybe when you figure the simulation out to the point that you can't really experience it the same way anymore, that's what it is to be awakened. But I just wanted to throw all that out there. I was talking on the last video about the question of if you feel appreciation, will you then create more bad things? And my answer to that is no, because there's sort of this, in my mind, there's a hierarchy of emotion or feeling or whatever. Frequency, let's call it that. There's a hierarchy of frequencies, and A Course in Miracles basically describes everything as either love or not real. Either love or fear, really. The not real is the fear. And these low frequencies are all kind of come back to fear, and these high frequencies kind of come back to love, always. And that appreciation feeling is in the love category. It's the real category. Whereas these lower emotions, these fear, anger, frustration, I don't know if maybe anger is not, I don't know. The lower vibrations, the lower frequencies are fear-based. So my advice to anybody who is struggling with what does it mean? What does this all mean if, it's a simulation, or if we can create our reality, or if it's all coming from us? My only advice to you would be to find the explanation for you that works for you, that is not fear-based. And I think that's about all I can say on that subject. So, I hope that helped somebody and didn't confuse anybody further. Again, it's just one person's perspective. It's not, it's not some kind of law that we know. It's just one person's perspective. And so I hope that helps somebody. Have a great day.